Welcome back, guys. So, we're going to look at closures. We've already seen about the lexical scoping in JavaScript, nested functions, and we have formed some understanding of scopes, and we have actually been introduced to the wonderful concept of closures, right, in JavaScript. Now, uh, I'll just give you a very small example where we are actually using the concept of the closure. Okay, so let me first of all save this file as practice 18.js. Okay, now basically I have. Okay, so first of all, let me just change the syntax to JavaScript syntax instead of the ES6 syntax. Okay. Okay, so basically this is the wrap value function. We are storing the parameter n in a local variable and then just returning it. And then we are calling wrap value function twice. Each time we are getting it into a function variable, and then we are calling that again and logging in the console. So if we just look at this, okay, so basically it's returning 1 and 2, which is what we expected. Now there is nothing complicated or anything smart over here. It's very simple and obvious, right? But the the thing which we want to understand or appreciate is that what is happening here is the way this thing is getting executed is very important. Basically, the execution context. So how this is happening is that so there are two parts. One is the function declaration and the other is the function execution. Okay, now when we create this function, the wrap value, or we create this wrap 1, now at this time JavaScript runtime will actually store whatever snapshot is available at the time of creation of this function. Okay, and then like 1 is actually available for being used. Okay, 1 the value is actually available for use in that snapshot. Okay, so when wrap 1, so what we can say is that let's say the phase 1 of execution, and I'll just explain it later what these phases are in more detail, but for now if we just try to understand the execution flow of the JavaScript runtime, how it happens is in the phase 1 when we have actually, you know what, I can just write it over here. Yeah, so when this line got executed, so wrap 1 will have its own snapshot, and let's say snapshot is S1, and here it will have 1 stored, and then like wrap 2 when it's created, it will have in it the snapshot s2, which is a different snapshot, mind it. And here you will have 2. And that is why when now later on when the function is actually getting executed, which is here, this will have access to its snapshot. Okay, so use s1 where we have 1, and that is why 1 will actually go inside and we will print 1. And here we will use s2, and here we have 2, and that's why we will execute 2 here. Okay, so this is the essence of this entire thing, but there are more complicated examples to actually understand. So I'll just take a pause over here, and I'll just bring in a totally different flow. Okay, and then like we will revisit closures and uh, uh, the snapshot and all. Okay, so for now I hope that this function is pretty clear. So I'm just pausing the video right now, and I'll let just you have some have a look at it and understand this part while we move on to the next part. Okay, so now we will just pick up something else over here. So I'll just save this. Yes. Now over here, what I would say is the most simple thing in the world. What does this print? Okay, so reference error X is not defined. So the JavaScript engine is not able to get the definition of X. So essentially what is happening over here is that whenever we refer to X, okay, now let's try to do one more thing. Okay, now let's see. What does this come? It is undefined. So now what happened is that we have declared a variable, right? So whenever we have declared this variable, now when the JavaScript runtime is actually parsing this file, what happens is that whenever it sees that declaration, it will store that in a place in memory, and what will happen is that since it is not initialized, it will automatically initialize to undefined. Undefined is a value, is a valid value, so to say, in JavaScript. Okay, so that's why it's no more an error, it's actually defined and available, but it is undefined. Okay, So now I'll just show one more thing which will be making this more interesting. Instead of here, if I put this over here, now can you guess what will happen over here? If I run this, the result is unchanged. The result is unchanged over here, which means that X is available although X is declared underneath that line, below that line. So does that mean that X is actually moved up? Not at all. Not at all. So let me explain this in bit more detail. So essentially there are two phases. Phase 1 is the memory creation phase, and all I'm saying right now is with respect to variables. Okay, we'll come to functions after this. Now in this phase, just a second, yeah, that's better. In this phase what happens is the JS runtime recognizes all variable declarations and puts them in the memory, and if initializes them to undefined. This makes them available for next phase, which is phase 2, is the execution phase. And in this phase, basically each function is executed. Okay, when of course invoked using the declarations recognized as per phase 1. Okay, so that is why what has happened here is that JavaScript runtime is doing the phase 1 memory creation phase. It looks at X and it will actually initialize it to undefined, and now next again the next parse comes in, next phase comes in, executing console log. It will actually find out that X has undefined value, print it up. Okay, now let me do one more thing. Now let me initialize this to 10. Okay, now do you think that we will get 10 as well? Let's see. Now we will still get undefined. Okay, we will still get undefined. Why? Because this, my dear friends, is something called hoisting. Okay, and right now we are looking at variable hoisting. Okay, I'm not going to give a proper definition of this, just to make keep things simple. Okay, whatever we have seen over here is termed as hoisting. So you need not remember the term, but just understand what's going on over here. Is that the memory creation phase, recognizing all the variable declarations first, putting them in the memory, and then in the execution phase, when the function is getting when the program is getting executed, basically using the declarations as per phase 1. Okay. However, we need to understand that variable hosting is not applicable for initializations. So if something is initialized, that won't be put into the memory. So if we have a console log over here, now if we see, yeah, so now if we see, we are getting an unexpected undefined. Okay. Yeah, so next we get 10, which is the initialized value, but we will not be able to get 10 in the first line. It will still be undefined, but it will not throw an error. Okay, so that is called variable hoisting. Just one more important thing over here is that let's do this. Okay, so just thinking about this. How will I put this? No, okay. Leave it. So let me just do the function hoisting as part of the next video. So stay tuned.